Hello, what is up, everybody? My name is Mario Pichardo, and today I kind of want to talk about this article just came out on Vox.com. Cory Booker now has the most ambitious gun control proposal of any candidate in 2020. Um, wow. So you can tell right there, right, just by the headline, the most ambitious, the best, this thing that's gonna be so awesome. It's unbelievable. I mean, you can just tell just by the words that they use. If they like something, they're gonna say, "Oh, it's great, it's awesome." If they don't, "Oh, it's evil, this skeptical, this draws a lot of backlash because of X, Y, and Z." Gets slammed. Uh, but when it's something that they like, it's ambitious, it's great, it's amazing. Um, and so here is Cory Booker, and here's the article. And so here they kind of just go on and they talk about his plan and what so on and so forth. I've already heard about it from another news source. I just kind of wanted to see it. And so look here, he wants to treat guns a bit more like cars. Look, so essentially what he's trying to do is Cory Booker wants to kind of go out there and say, hey, you gotta, if you have an assault rifle, you gotta turn it in. It's dangerous. You can't have them. They're not good for you. They're not good for a society. Even though these guns, these assault rifles that he's claiming are so bad, are responsible for a very, very, very small percentage of total gun deaths. And to hear something like that and know that, and to know that more than I believe it's more than 90% of gun deaths are caused by things like handguns and shotguns. The question really becomes, well, then why do you want to take our guns? Why don't you take people's handguns away? Why don't you take people's? Well, I think not only is it harder to do that, to take someone's gun away, just a handgun, because like, well, how do you justify that? They go after these big guns, and listen, I mean, I think we all know this. Look, this is a posse. That's what it is. It's a group of people a group of these Democrats who have inordinate amounts of power. And for us to sit here and say, oh, and see, all of these news organizations all coming together and all kind of waving the same flag, of like, oh, this is bad, this is really good, this is really bad, everything a Democrat does is amazing, everything a Republican does is horrible, we need to turn all this stuff away. And then we see it seep into movies, and we see it seep into definitely the music, but for it to seep into every single facet of our media, entertainment, and everybody kind of repeating the same thing. Like when Donald Trump got elected, everybody hated Donald Trump. I mean, that was I believe they said it was over 90% of the news coverage for the Donald was bad, and people just started shooting out lies about him. It became such a thing that now it's cool to not like the president of the United States. And I mean, it's gotten to a point where people, they're trying to shut everything down in the name of intolerance. And it was George Carlin who said, that political correctness is the new intolerance. And it absolutely has been. Look at it now. You can get kicked off of social media, and it's gone to such an extreme that I think we have to do something. I think people have to go out there and call out these news organizations for what they're doing, because they're spreading lies, and call them out by name. Say, the Vox is printing lies. Look at this article and look at how they're trying to deceive people to get them to believe something. And every time they don't cover a new story, oh, look, they didn't cover this story about Christians, or look at how they're talking about Christians as if they're not people. And look at the people that Twitter is is kicking off the platform. Like the guy who just recently he had a parody account for Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, which I understand was very funny. But not only did his account get taken down, which had like tens and tens of thousands of followers, might even have had 100,000. But not only did his account get taken down, the parody account, but also his actual account got taken down, even though his parody account followed the guidelines of which you needed to have a parody account. They still took it down, but other parody accounts for people like Donald Trump are still up. And so, not only is it this huge party that's going on where it's like, and by party I mean all these people who are clearly on the same side. If we look at our news organizations, almost all of the news, I think it's like 90% of media, not just the news, comes out of 6 companies, and that should be worrisome to anybody. There is a strong centralization of power there. Almost all of the ad revenue over the internet is through 2 companies, Facebook and Google. That is something that is, wow. What is going on? Where Amazon is deleting books that they say, oh well, these are lies, they're fake news, or they're hateful, and so poof, they're gone. You can't read them. I was reading this story from a couple of years ago where this woman who bought Kindle books, Amazon closed her account for whatever reason, but they actually went into her Kindle that she had and deleted the books off of her account when they closed her account. And so even like something like that, and that's a digital medium, something you paid money for, but they were just like, oh, nope, I'm taking it back, because apparently that's how the DRM works for Kindles. So be wary. That took me through a loop. That was disturbing because I own a decent amount of Kindle books. But where do we go from here when we hear, when we see Facebook ramping up its censorship? Apparently, that you can't post anything about another social media website. I heard you can't type in minds.com in Facebook. It'll say, oh, you can't. Who's Facebook to say what you can or cannot do? And then a lot of people say, well, it's a private platform. They've gotten too big to the point where this has become a medium of people to exchange ideas. This has clearly become the new town hall, is that people are having their conversations online and on social media websites. So whether we like it or not, we have to do something about that. Now it's not saying we have to take these companies over. But even though I do think these companies need to be taken apart on some level, but there needs to be some kind of regulation. There absolutely has to be. This is, these companies, Twitter, for example, has a huge sway off of how many, has a huge sway over political elections across the world. And so what happens if Twitter decides, a week before the election, let's say of a Latin American country, let's say Honduras, and they just decide, okay, well, we don't like what this guy's saying, the conservative, of course, so let's take him off the platform. And just, well, it is what it is. Well, then doesn't that affect that election? And so there has to be, it's rough, right? Because it's like, it's a whole different ball game than what we're used to. I mean, the founders could not have known that we would have these kinds of issues when they were writing the Constitution. But there needs to be, on some level, human rights or civil rights as far as the internet goes. And it's, I thought about this, and I was listening to some guy, and he was saying something that was really kind of spot on. And he was saying how, well, a majority of the people don't follow politics. They're what's known as normies. They're people who aren't, in the greater conversation. And they're people who just kind of want to get their bread. If they have bread on the table, and they're doing all right for themselves, they don't care about politics. They don't give a they don't care. And so, when you hear that, that's true. There's really the minority of people who have ideological beliefs, and things like that, and so when you go online, it kind of becomes a lot of a heavily polarized, but it's not a true representation of the sample. Most people are not online. Most people are not on Facebook. Most people are not on any of these social media platforms trying to learn, trying to see anything about anything, really. And so, they're watching cat videos. They're watching sports. They're watching Game of Thrones. They don't care. They have money in their pocket. They have things they're going to do. They couldn't care less if corruption goes down or something like that. And that's true. It's so true. But the fact of the matter is, I think it's imperative upon us to fight back in the way that, well, look at how our enemies are fighting us, right? These groups, because it's clearly a big club, right? I mean, it's so obvious that there's a big club. When you look at things like, well, there's the Bilderberg meetings. You look at any of these big group gatherings, where there's always these elite people. I always thought isn't it so weird that you have essentially every westernized country in the world all of a sudden has the same kind of ideological beliefs and stances. Like, everybody just became so loving and caring towards migrants that everybody just all of a sudden was like, okay, well, we got to let these people in. We've had to change a heart. Suddenly we don't care about all the other lies we've told to get elected, to push policy, to push our own agendas. But we're really doing this my immigrant thing because we are like great people, morally great. Of course not. All at the same time. We're talking about countries that are thousands of miles away. Okay, so it's very suspicious. I don't buy it at all. I'm seeing a big club of people, and they're all across the, and they know who they are, and people who follow politics, they know who they are. It's the Merkels, it's the Macrons, it's the Hillary Clintons, the Barack Obamas, and it's scary because you look at the fact that, well, it's not just the politicians from these countries, but it's the CEOs of these big tech companies who hold a lot of sway over what people have access to seeing. When you see like YouTube deciding what people can view, demonetizing videos that talk about certain topics that they don't want told, and then their whole explanation was, oh, well, it's not advertiser friendly. I think a lot of people remember that when they came out and when they said, oh, it's not advertiser friendly, that was also the same time that all of these companies, I think they all did it right at once, if memory serves, all pulled out of YouTube, like all at the same time. It's like Ford. I'm gonna botch. I don't remember everybody, but you can look it up. Everybody kind of just bailed at the same time off of YouTube. They're like, listen, we're not doing this. And don't you think it's a little strange that all the advertisers did that at the same time? And it's these big names too. It's these big brand names. It's not, these small guys. When I see that, I think back to, oh, there's those Bilderberg meetings, right? Where all these big, powerful people, and it's just not just the Bilderberg, there are other committees and things like that as well. But we know these people have power in high places, and they're all part of this big club, aren't they? Where they all want to push, elitism, and push the people down so that they can have cheap labor, so that they can have, more control. They just want everything. They just want to secure the wealth that they have, and they want to play God. These people who, worship the devil worshipers. And you can just see that just in the way that they treat Christians. You'd think that Christians would be their key demographic, that they would love Christians, but they always push Christians down. Just look at some of the murals in Brussels. This huge side of a skyscraper. This guy it's just a depiction of a person being tortured, literally. on a huge skyscraper on the side of Brussels, right now. Where else is in Brussels? The European Union. That's weird. That's weird. That's really weird. You know, and there's other things too, but look, there's a club. There's a big club. It's a big club. You know, and a lot of people aren't in it. And there's levels to the club too. It's not like it's this huge club and everybody's in the know. Of course not. It's compartmentalized because there's so many members. But you know, it's gotten to a point where here in America, these socialist communists are feeding the college kids the idea that, you should be ashamed of America. Why? Because they want people to voluntarily give in their guns, like Cory Booker is saying on here. He's saying, "Oh, give away your gun. You don't want your guns." All in the name of gun protection, protecting the people from the maliciousness of guns. Even though the chances of anybody actually getting caught in like a school shooting is like incredibly small, just incredibly. But it's not even that. Look, we're looking at the statistics. More than 90% are by handgun or by shotgun. But you want to take the assault rifles, or the so-called assault rifles. It's not the actual name, so they like to play the word games too, because they know it's effective. It does work. Calling something an assault rifle versus calling something else works, especially on normies. You know, and normies being people who aren't, you know, in actively, you know, invested in politics and things like that. And that stuff's scary. And so, you know, I sit here and I say, well, if most people are normies and these people are pushing this agenda, you know, then what option do we have as the rest of us, the few people who are kind of like, you know, following the political discussion or discourse. And that's well, look at what they're doing. You know, they're shouting from the rooftops. This guy's bad. This guy's a Nazi. This guy's this. This guy's that. I think it's time for us to actively do what we can and say, you know, hey, this person's fake news. Look at the story that the New York Times put out back then about the Catholic students. That was wrong. Look at these dossiers that they put out there about Donald Trump saying that he did all these things, which clearly he didn't. That was fake news. New York Times has printed fake news. That makes them a distributor of fake news. You know, it's not just and you got to call them by name too. You know, we really have to go out there and we have to say, call it what it is. Call them out at every shot and wake people up, because notice what they're doing. You know, what they're trying to do is keep the general public aslumber, and so that they can just keep moving and eventually take everybody's guns away. And every time in history, once they've taken away the guns, things have never gone well. Things have never gone well. And the question people should really be asking is, if guns are only responsible for 10% or less of actual deaths, and 90% of them, 90, is handguns and shotguns, then why are they trying to take these guns away? You know, do some critical thinking. And it doesn't mean you're right. It doesn't mean that you say, oh, okay, well, they're going to try to do some kind of mass genocide. That doesn't mean that they're doing that. But what it does mean, and if we look historically, that's what's happened. Usually when they take away the guns, it's followed by a genocide. Why are they taking people's guns away? You know, what happens in communism? Let's go back through history. And so the first thing they'll say is, oh, this guy's a conspiracy theorist. And the reason that they do that is twofold. One, because they know that calling someone a name, like a character attack, is a very easy way to discredit them, because that becomes a lot of people's first impression of you, that, oh, this person's a bad guy. But also because I think I had another reason, but it's fine. They do it because they know that it's such an easy way to kind of put you off into the corner. I remember the second reason was because it instills fear. It instills fear in other people. It's a deterrent. So if I come out there and I say that, okay, well, and then it's like, oh, look at this guy says conspiracy theorist. Then they can just that everybody else is like, oh, I don't want to be called a conspiracy theorist. So I'm not going to talk about that. I don't want to be looked at like I'm some kind of Alex Jones. You know, and so, but we have to fight them. We have to fight them. We have to, because it's ridiculous. There was a law that was passed temporarily. It failed at the court level, for Rockland County, New York. Rockland County, New York, where they tried to declare a measles outbreak and force everyone to get vaccinated. And you'd get sued if you weren't vaccinated. Not sued, fined up to $1,000 and maybe, I think, even incarceration. But think about that. It's like, who's the government to tell you what you can or cannot put into your body? Ever. That's not what this country was founded on. And even if, and this isn't even an issue of if vaccines are safe, and of which there's no proven studies out there. This scientific consensus doesn't have the research behind it to back it up, that these vaccines are as good for people as they say they are. And so, look, I've lost all faith, absolutely, in mainstream news sources. They just print slander and libel and listen for the sound bites and grab the sound bites and grab things out of context. Because I know a lot of people just read the headlines. But this is our fight. And I don't mean that as an American. I mean that as a world citizen, to realize that this is happening in the United States at the same time that it's happening in Britain, in Australia, in every other Western civilization. Where everybody's kind of pushing the same policies and all has the same general idea. And that's why it's starting to look like you're seeing a huge rise in the conservative movement across the world. I've seen it. Canada. I was listening to an interview in Canada where these two guys were talking. They were talking about how a lot of Canada is now conservative, and it's coming out of Justin Trudeau's policies. But, also to remember, listen, there's establishment of Republicans have been around all the time. We need to break this two-party system down. And that's only going to happen. Look at the Yellow Vests. They're taking it to the streets. Those guys aren't playing around. They know that the system's rigged, and they're acting on it. But and we need to do something. We need to wake more people up. Because if not, I'm not saying that things are going to get really terribly bad, but things are not going to get better for anybody. Not any normal person. These elites have run away and are drunk on power, and they need some kind of regulation. They need it. So it's up to us. And I've kind of been following this stuff for a while, and it's concerning to see how much has changed in such a short amount of time, where just a couple of years ago, the shootings were shooting. And the conversation kind of started where it's like, okay, guns, we got to do this about guns. Now people are coming out and saying, like that one guy who's saying, we'll nuke them if they don't give us their guns. We'll shoot them if they don't give us their guns. Cory Booker, they used to say, oh, we'll put more regulations on, tighter regulations on the guns. Now he's just coming out and saying it. You're going to give us your guns, and we'll give it to you. And then the way that they're being nice about it is saying, we'll give you a certain amount of time to give it back. You can't let this stuff fly. We can't let this stuff fly. We have to step up. And so people are like, okay, well, why? Or I don't really want to. I mean, this is like, I guess it's kind of rough to say, but you're either part of the solution or you're part of the problem, because what they want is for people to not do anything. That's it. And I was talking to a friend before about something like this, and it was that, we've, as a culture, especially because of YouTube and stuff like that now, the internet, where we've kind of become consumerist, and even in real life situations where we're so used to living vicariously through other people, through movies and TV shows, that even when these kinds of crazy things happen in the real world, we are already desensitized to it. Isn't that crazy? We're already desensitized to it. And so it doesn't seem like as big of a deal as it is. It's like, oh, well, yeah, because it doesn't have that like same level of emotional impact. But it's like that analogy of the frog, where if we kind of like keep letting it slip a little bit, it's eventually going to hit a point where we can't go back. So I think that our best course is really, if you can do anything, write to your local congressman, write to your call the senators, call your local senator, call your national senator, your national representatives. Um, Call them, leave messages, berate them, let them know that you don't stand for this kind of thing, these policies, these ideas, and start a YouTube channel, start something. Because look, people are just getting kicked off of YouTube. The president of the United States had to come out and retweet people who are getting hammered because of the censorship that's going on. You know, this is rapidly moving into the mainstream, but we need to get ahead of it, just like these companies are. You know, and they're shutting down because people are realizing, hey, this is fake news. You know, this is fake news. But that doesn't mean that the fight's just going to take care of itself. We all need to do our part. You know, get out there and make a video. Make a video like this with your phone, and you know, share this idea. Send this video to a friend. Just do something, because if we don't do anything, then it's like, what are we going to say when Jesus, you know, when we die, we go to heaven? Well, we go before on the judgment day, and you know, what do we have to answer for when we kind of like let these things slip through our fingers? But it's not to do it in a way of fear. You do it in a way of love, where we go out there and we share because we care about not just ourselves and our children and our children, but our fellow man, because we all believe in this. We all believed in this, and we're just gonna let it slip by because we've had it too good for too long. Because of the hard work that our ancestors had to do. Many people died for these freedoms. So to just give away the freedom of a free speech because it hurts somebody's feelings, that's unconstitutional. To kick someone off of a platform because they said something you consider hateful. But since we don't have a civil rights for the internet, they can just do whatever they want. We saw the corruption. We saw that people were spying on President Trump during during his campaign. That's a real offense. That whatever intel he might have, the Obama and Clinton could have garnered there, could have decided that election. In other words, that was campaign meddling, literally. And so, you know, and that was in the Mueller report. That the same mainstream pundits had to go out and you know, talk about it, and they lost huge ratings because people realized that these people are full of it. So, look, I mean, I'm someone who usually sits on the sidelines, but this is crazy. This is like ridiculous. You know, you see the yellow vests. We need yellow vests. I'm not saying that we need violence. That's not what I'm saying at all. We don't need rioting. We don't need anything like that. We need protest. We need to wake people up. Is probably the most important thing, is to spread the word, share the word. And yeah, people are gonna look at you and say, "Oh, you're crazy." But look at how the media was able to cut lines between families and friends because of their constant antagonistic rhetoric on Donald Trump. Even people are getting punched in the face for wearing MAGA hats, getting into fights because they were wearing MAGA hats, because they were wearing hats. That the media recklessly, it wasn't recklessly, they did it on purpose, and they knew that they knew that, because it's a big club. It's a big club. They just want more and more power over you. They want all of it. They want all of it. They want you to know that you're nothing. You know, and to watch these people on the news just straight up lie to you. Maybe they believe this stuff. I don't know. Maybe they really do believe it, but no matter what it is, you know, we can't ignore the fact that it's damaging. It's damaging people. It's lying to people. So, I just want to make a video. I just want to talk about that because this is too much. But Thank you guys for watching. Be sure to let me know what you guys think, yeah. Feel free to like this video, share it, subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Take it easy. Peace.